all we have to do. Just
Let me
start
also
playing that American in Paris.
Okay, I'm connecting to the stream here before I actually hit.
Yeah, DJ, you're cool. We're on. We're live.
Okay. Alrighty, I'm just waiting for my script to load here, and then we can get underway.
Script hello. The folks in the chat room say they hear. Are you guys gonna start this anytime soon?
Does it bring back old memories, Gertie, of your days in the circus?
Yeah. That's all I want to say. Anytime you're ready. Boy, oh boy.
Okay, let me see if I can load this another way here, because my script...
Let's wait. Let's not wait until it's Saturday, okay? Anytime. Oh boy. All right. Yeah. Still waiting. Oh boy, Jesus.
Try this another way. Hang on.
Anyways, folks in the chat room, you guys are listening to George Gershwin's American in Paris. It's a lovely little tune he wrote, composed, very famous. And this is the music that Gene Kelly interpreted the last 17 minutes of An American in Paris, the movie with Gene Kelly. He used the music from George Gershwin to direct and create an entire unprecedented 17 minutes of choreography and dance in a modern movie?
Okay, well, I think we will get underway. So, please take your seats. Matinee Minutia is about to begin. Good evening, everyone. It is Friday, August 7th, and it's the first Friday of August. We are firmly ensconced in summer, and we're here to fund a duo. Yes, I'm speaking French. That comes in shortly. Toppy, how are you, sir?
I'm good, DJ. I'm wondering if there's anything you can turn off on your computer because we're
Toppy, are you there?
Yes, I am, and we're skipping a lot. Can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me? I think we're having a lot of delays.
I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Okay, hang on. Let me try this. Hold on.
I think anything you can turn off would be beneficial.
Yeah, I can hear you. And let me. Sorry, I'm gonna try something here.
All right. Stand by, folks, in the chat room.
Trying. Okay.
I don't know. Either it's from your earphones, DJ. I hear something. Are you playing something on some channel?
Almost ready. Mm-hmm. No, not presently.
Okay, we have a huge lag. Huge lag.
I hear watery noise. Have I improved any?
Well, you and I have like a 10-second, 15-second gap between what you and I say.
Well, maybe I should just reboot.
All right. Yep, let's do it. Folks, stand by. It'll sound better. La 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 la. Boo 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 boo. Oh fuck.
Okay, I'm returning. I just have to fix my camera.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Have I improved with my sound?
I think we are in sync now.
Excellent. Okay, I'm opening Discord again.
Yep. Let's get her going.
Says that we're still broadcasting, so it just picked me back up.
Yeah.
I guess that happens if I don't click end session. So, okay, put this to open and let's see. While I'm waiting for Discord, I got to get my other files back in here quick.
All right. Yeah, you sound good now. No delays.
Excellent. I don't know what the hell the problem was before.
I don't know.
Alright. Save, and let me put this other one in here. And okay. All right, let me start broadcast. Oh wait, Discord. Where the hell did Discord go? Stupid Discord. It's open already, Discord. Okay, it's opening. Eventually here. Okay. Says it's opening. Hopefully this doesn't drag me down. I'm waiting on it. Thank goodness we don't have a guest this time. But you know, at least this hasn't happened for a while.
That's good. Okay. Yeah. You might want to start with the music, the George Gershwin music, and then I can tell you if you're on.
Okay. I'm just finishing Discord and it's telling me that it's logging me in quick.
All right.
Little spinny hand thingy. Okay.
Spinny hands. Spinny. Everyone in the chat room is being very patient and very nice.
Awesome sauce. Okay, what are you
doing?
It closed on me. Let me open it again one last time.
Every time you blink, your makeup accents it.
Oh.
Oh, Lordy.
Okay, almost back in the room. Gotta make sure that it's got that stupid notifications thing turned off.
Yeah, yes.
Notifications. And they're all off. Yay, okay. So let me get to that part of the script. And Okay, so we'll just start into the music, and I'll say, "Take your seats." Blah blah
Yeah,
blah.
play a minute of George Gershwin.
Okay, make sure I got my volume on here.
I'll give you the thumbs up on screen if we're live. You have to look.
Okay. Good evening, folks. It is Friday, August 7th, and you're here for the podcast about film and television trivia, Matinee Minutia. Please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Finally. Oh.
Well, good evening, Toppy. How are
Hi.
you?
Well, I'm fine. And you know what? Our friends in the chat room have been so patient and so nice. But here we are. We've gotten the snafus out of the way. We're ready to go.
Oh, right. Well, for that patience, it's a free round of lollipops. Gertie's going to make her way through the audience.
Whoa! Whoa, lollipops for everyone. Ha ha ha. All right, get on with it, boys. Oh,
Oui. A little bit of old français there.
Hey, look, you guys, I'm so excited about tonight. You know why? Why? Well, I'll tell you. Because of the Frenchy French, the men, the France, the history, the men, the culture, the men. Okay, let's forget about culture. Let's talk about the men. I'm telling you.
Toppy, I have it on good authority that our senior showgirl here, she's moonlighting on us. Did you hear about this?
Well, I did, but tell the audience.
Well,
let's none of their business. Okay, go ahead.
Well, while most of us like to try to get out of town this time of year, it's a little harder said than done these days. And, Gertie's got a friend who's a pilot, and let's just say that she knows where the bodies are buried and might owe a favor or two. But
you have a way with words, DJ.
But Gertie is going to be working at a gentleman's club out in the Midwest. It's got a theme. Do you want to tell them what it's called, Gertie?
The Bunker.
And we're not talking Archie.
No, look, the clientele, well, they're a little handsy, but listen, DJ, the money is decent.
Oh, well,
I'll be there.
That's the.
I gotta wear a mask, though. I gotta wear a mask.
Yes, please. Hey, Gertie, can you get those pretty little tootsies down to the stage? Because these folks like to hear about our movie.
Oh, yeah, I'll be right down. Okay, here we go. Bye-bye. I'll be right downstairs. Right downstairs. Okay, there she goes. She's very excited about going on hiatus, DJ.
Ooh.
All right. Gertie, you ready? Jerry is an American expatriate, struggling to make a living as a painter on the streets of Paris. While out at a club with a recent customer, he's charmed by a young beauty. But isn't she the one his friend has been talking about at the cafe downstairs? Will he win her heart? Will his mysterious investor turn the tide? Grab your sketchbook and chapeau. It's time for Gene Kelly in An American in Paris. Hit it, garçons!
What do you get when you take a dash of the silver screen, a pinch of golden oldies, and a smidgen of screaming? It's time for Matinee Minutia with your hosts DJ and Toppy.
Wow. Toppy, I don't know about you, but I have been enjoying this little taste of fall that we've been getting lately.
Oh, absolutely. Me too. I mean, I mean, I shudder to say the word fall or autumn yet. It's just that here in this area of the world, you and I have been experiencing much cooler temperatures than the recent heat wave that seemed to go on forever.
Yeah, and I was certainly glad for the relief. So, uh,
Mm.
we
And Tudor says it's hot as heck where he is.
oh my,
I mean,
down
she is.
down the Middle Atlantic there in the Baltimores.
Yeah.
We've been keeping busy lately, getting our ducks in a row, and we finally got the bank to say, "Hey, you could start that money pit now."
Yeah. Now the money pit, me. Tell him what the money pit is.
Well, it's where your business goes after you've done your business. And it's what we country folks here like to say our cement pond. No, I don't mean to say that. It's
It's
your
a,
septic
s-
system.
yeah, a cistern. Is it a cistern? What's a cistern? I don't know. A cistern is a French well. We're going to talk a lot about France tonight, folks.
Hey,
Yeah.
sister. Oh, so hey, Toppy, I was gonna ask you there, out there in the Pickle Hollows. I'm just kind of curious, how are things going to be going at Cromwell? Because I've got a nephew, and well, let's just say that he's going to the drugstore school, and
Okay.
he's been told they're going to try things out for the beginning of the semester. They're going to go back to the dorms, and they're still fully expecting that they'll have to send them home, but we're going to give it a go and see how it lasts.
Yeah. Well, every morning, DJ, I get local news here in Pickle Hollow because I listen to the radio. And I'll tell you, Cromwell University has this plan, and there's another college around here. Can't remember what it's called, but they're both planning on bringing kids back to classes, and they're going to pile all these kids back into dorms and living quarters and wherever. And well, best of luck to them. Best of luck to them. I don't know what to say. I have no idea.
It sounds a little bit like when you were a kid and you were first going to the public pool with mom. You sink or swim, and
Yeah.
bad joke, I guess. But
I
hey,
don't
that is our legacy here at an old theater that was once home to vaudeville.
Yeah.
All right, Toppy, let's get on topic. What have we got?
All right. It's An American in Paris, a musical from the 50s starring Gene Kelly. And this was a certified bona fide hit. But DJ, it was 1951 when the world saw this movie. Tell us what was going on back in 1950. What's a long time ago, folks? 1951.
All right, so the world in 1951. And there was quite a bit that went on. We'll try to speed through this. The first ever UN headquarters opened in New York. Tall building, very modern. The last daily narrow gauge passenger train, the San Juan Express. It was retired by Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroads. It was the last place in the country that you could take the train to and from the city. Got to get in your car now. In the Midwest, Jack in the Box, fast food chain restaurant. Founder Robert O. Peterson started them out in San Diego that year.
I got to tell you, they must have never made their way east because I ain't never seen one Jack in the Box.
It's funny how that works. We have bridges over the Mississippi, but they're still territorial borders.
No.
The 22nd Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, limiting presidents to 2 terms, is ratified. Well, some of us would like it to be 1. Hank Ketchum's best-selling comic strip, Dennis the Menace, appeared in papers across the U.S. for the first time.
Oh, boy. By the way, 1 year before Hank Ketchum, The Peanuts by Charles M. Schultz premiered. 1950. Anyways, go ahead.
Rodgers and Hammerstein's The King and I opened on Broadway in 51, and it ran for 3 years at the time. That's going to be talked about later. It's the legacy of musicals, and it's the first Rodgers and Hammerstein musical specifically written for an actress. So it did not, get converted from a book. It was written. The play was written for Gertrude Lawrence in the lead. And in Joplin, Missouri, the George Washington Carver National Monument became the first U.S. national monument to honor an African American.
Excellent.
Walt Disney's 13th animated film, Alice in Wonderland, premiered in London that year.
Good Lord, think of that, folks. 1951, Disney's 13th animated film. It's
And
kind of awesome.
We just watched one of the more recent installments in that with Johnny Depp. It was pretty good. Helena Bonham Carter plays the Red Queen in it. In San Francisco, 48 nations signed a peace treaty with Japan to formally end the Pacific War.
Oh, it's so nice. It's 1951, and formally we're going to end the. I have a serious question, folks in the chat room, DJ. The end of the Pacific War, are they talking about the Korean War? What are they talking about?
It's a good question.
I don't know.
And finishing out 51, Shoppers World, which is one of the first shopping malls in the U.S., opened in the, I think it's Boston suburb of Framingham, Massachusetts.
I still remember their theme song, Shoppers World, Shoppers World. No, I'm sorry. Never mind. Continue, DJ.
And a program that's near and dear to many people's hearts, and a fellow New Yorker, Lucille Ball's I Love Lucy. It premiered on CBS in 1951.
Excellent. By the way, folks, Lucille Ball's home where she was born in New York, not far from Pickle Hollow.
Direct dial coast-to-coast telephone service began in 51. So, all those years you saw in the movies, they would dial up Sarah. Well, that came to an end in 51. And the Marshall Plan, that plan that helped the European nations rebuild after the war, well, after distributing more than $13.3 billion in 1951, imagine $13.3 billion. The Marshall Plan expired in 1951, so the handouts were over.
That was USA money going to rebuild Europe. I got to say, I don't think America gets enough credit as much as they get criticism for dropping 2 atomic bombs, which is horrible. But we did do a lot to help after that. And we didn't go crazy and use the bomb 50 other places. So I'd like a little credit for the U.S. here that pumped money back into Europe to help rebuild it, even after, we blew them the hell up. I think we need a little credit. Anyways, kids, 1951, there's some people that were born there. You're going to recognize them. We're going to zip through. Christy Alley. No. Kurt Russell. No. Goldie Hawn's hubby, Tommy Hilfiger. Wait a minute. DJ, is that true?
Backwards. Kurt Russell's Goldie Hawn's hubby.
Wait a minute. Okay, fine. Anyways, yes. There you go. Tommy Hilfiger never married to Goldie Hawn. Anyways, Tommy Hilfiger was another guy, Horseheads, New York. He was born. Yeah, he was a fashion designer. Anyways, Tony Danza. Yep. Joey Ramone. He was with the Ramones. Al Franken. He was that wacky U.S. senator that had to retire. Sally Ride, first American woman astronaut. Dr. Jill Biden, U.S. second lady. What is that, DJ?
She's the vice president's wife.
Okay, very good. Richard Thomas, John Boy, you know him. Angelica Houston. These people are all born in 1951. I'm not finished. Cheryl Ladd, Robin Williams, Eddie McClurg. Now, do we really know who Eddie McClurg is, DJ?
Edie, yeah, she's come up in a couple of
Edie.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, she was the neighbor lady in the Hogan Family, that show that Valerie Harper.
Oh, God. Okay.
She was also the wife on WKRP, and Herb Tarlick, that was his wife, the little redheaded lady.
Oh, okay.
And she was in a couple of other films, including Ferris Bueller's Day Off as the woman in the vice principal's office.
Folks, that was Edie McClurg. Make note of that. Also, Linda Carter, Wonder Woman, Catherine Hicks, Michael Keaton, Jean Smart, Cassandra Peterson. Do you know who she is, folks? Cassandra Peterson is Elvira, born in 1951. Mark Hamill. We got some Marks here. Mark Hammond, Mark Harmon, Mark Summers. All born 51. Finally, Beverly D'Angelo and Treat Williams. DJ, in 1951, American in Paris went up against what movies?
Alrighty, so 51 was an important year for yours truly, especially. Part of Matinee Minutia's lore is that this was inspired by my father's childhood. He had an unhappy home, and he used to escape to the movies instead of going to school. And in 51, that's when the family started coming apart at the seams. But he was still happy when he had his popcorn and his candy at the movies. And in American in Paris, it was released in November of 51, November 11th. So it came out just before the holidays. And it was number 11. Go figure. We loved it. In 1951's money, it grossed $4.5 million. Now, the films that actually were the top of the box office in 51 included Quo Vadis, which was $30 million that year. That starred Robert Taylor and Deborah Carr.
Okay. All right. Okay. Quo Vadis. All right. What else?
Number 2 was David and Bathsheba, and that was $14 million. That starred the handsome gentleman, Mr. Gregory Peck, and Susan Hayward.
Yeah, but now we get another musical.
We sure do. And number 3 brought in $11 million. It was Showboat, which had Katherine Grayson, Howard Keel, and Agnes Moorehead. Now, Toppy, I'm only going to pause for a second. Those last 2 names, do they mean anything to you?
Well, Agnes Moorehead was Bewitched Mama's mother.
She sure was, and she was also on, was it Twilight Zone?
Yes. She was on Twilight Zone. Who's Howard Keel, though?
Oh, my goodness. This is some 80s trivia for you folks. Mr. Howard Keel played Miss Ellie on Dallas, her second husband.
Oh, all right. All right.
They are stepdaddy.
Yeah. What else we got here?
All right. So just one better than American in Paris, number 10. We want to know what came close, was The Great Caruso. Now, this made $4.5 million. And it was an Italian opera star that juggled 2 women suitors. So not too terribly a different story. And one lower on the rung beyond American in Paris, number 12, was The Day the Earth Stood Still, a personal favorite. This one was $3.7 million, and it starred Hugh Marlowe and Patricia Neal. Now, where do you remember that name from, Toppy?
Well, good old Patricia Neal. She was Mama Walton in The Homecoming, the TV movie that launched the Waltons. Yeah.
Sure was. No, Toppy, before we actually discuss who was in this program, would we like to tease them with a little bit of the story?
Boy, I'll tell you what, DJ. This story, if you could recap the story, I'll give you $10. Go ahead.
How about I just play the trailer?
Oh, play the trailer.
Oh, wrong one. Wait, let me get to it. Lots of words on the screen. A fantastic film. It's a musical with an all-star cast. And then in a moment here, we get a little bit of a narration from one of the characters.
This is Paris, and I'm an American who lives here. I'm a painter. All my life, that's all I've ever wanted to do. Brother, if you can't paint in Paris, you better give up and marry the boss's daughter. Oh, I have a lot of good friends in Paris. A lot of very good friends.
And I am one of them. I'm a concert pianist. That's a pretentious way of saying I'm unemployed at the moment. I like Paris. It's a place where you don't run into old friends, although that has never been one of my problems. Strangely enough, I made a friend over here once. I worked for him. His name was Henri Borel. You know, the French music hall star? Do you remember him?
Nope.
I remember, because that is me.
Begin today, you'll find it nice. The quickest way to paradise. I'll build the stairway to paradise with the new step every day.
She's an exciting girl. She's like a sunbeam. When she walks down the street, everybody feels a little better.
C'est magnifique!
Wonderful. It's marvelous. She should care for me.
Paris is a mood. A longing you didn't know you had until it was answered. Paris is it's like love or art or faith. It can't be explained, only felt.
Just listen to my heart go pitter-pat. It started from the start. I felt like that. Hum it, drum it, sing it, drum it. What a thrill I'm getting from it. Tra la 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 la.
Okay, folks, if you recognized a lot of those tunes, it's because they were from this movie, but they were from other things. American in Paris was basically a review which had music by Gershwin from many sources, and that's why you recognize so many films, so many songs. Now, we need to talk about Gene Kelly first and foremost. DJ, I got to tell you, it was most interesting watching this movie and learning about Gene Kelly. I didn't know a whole hell of a lot about him. Oh, by the way, I got to tell Cronehaven, she's waiting to hear about Oscar Levant. Apparently, she's got a thing for him. We'll get to Oscar in a few minutes. But Gene Kelly, did you know much about him before this movie, DJ?
I know that he was in a lot of the films that were in the era when my dad was growing up. So I had seen probably a good half dozen, even before I knew of modern stars growing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know he's from Pittsburgh.
He is.
And even after he was no longer in films, he was working behind the scenes as a choreographer.
Yeah. When he kind of was done with his very athletic dancing, you got to be kind of a young man. That doesn't mean he stopped dancing, but he certainly slowed down as a dancer, and he got very interested in film production later on, which is where he spent the remainder of his career. And he directed movies, he helped other productions with their dance numbers, and he was behind the scenes, and he really loved being behind the scenes and directing, and he loved movie production. So he spent the last part of his life doing exactly what he wanted to do. But early on, folks, here's just an amazing story. He was born in Pittsburgh, and he was the third son of his parents who, at that time, we're just not talking about a family that had a hell of a lot of money. And but when Gene Kelly was 8, his mother enrolled him and his younger brother James in dance classes, and they, oddly enough, didn't like it because they were very neighborhood. Everybody spent their days outside beating each other up. That's just what boys did in cities like Pittsburgh, and they didn't really want to be called sissies because they danced. But the thing is that early exposure sort of stuck with him, even though he didn't want to admit it. And he went on to leave high school at age 16 and go into Pennsylvania State College. He wanted to be a journalist. That's what he wanted. But the stock market crash in 1929 put a halt to everything, and all he concentrated on was supporting his family, which is what families did in the Depression. They did whatever they could, but this dance stuff that he did with his brothers, particularly his younger brother Fred, they realized that they could enter a lot of contests and win prize money, and they did by dancing. And his younger brother Fred taught Gene Kelly how to tap dance. So they just self-taught, primarily, and they went on to perform in nightclubs and things like that. But that's the way he was helping his family along. So after the stock market crash, he did eventually get back into the University of Pittsburgh. He just wanted to study economics, but he joined the university's cap and gown club. What was that? Well, it was they did musical productions. And after graduating from college, Gene Kelly continued to be active with the Cap and Gown Club, and he served as the director from 34 to 38. So he obviously had a lot of interest in this dancing stuff. But he went to the University of Pittsburgh law school. He wanted to become a lawyer at that point. So his brothers and his family opened up a dance studio, meanwhile, in Pittsburgh, and it was eventually renamed the Gene Kelly Studio of Dance. And this little studio opened in Johnstown, Pennsylvania in 1933, and Gene Kelly started teaching kids what he knew. This is while he's an undergraduate law student. and he's teaching kids at the school. So eventually, Kelly started to understand that this interest he had in dancing and performing far outweighed any desire he wanted to be a lawyer or anything else. So he increased his focus on performing and and also teaching. He was very interested in teaching boys and girls how to dance, and this is really what he did for a number of years. He tried to find work in New York because that's where people go when they want to be in showbiz, but it kind of fizzled. He returned to Pittsburgh and he didn't give up. And so in Pittsburgh, he started doing the choreography for a number of productions that led him eventually back to Broadway, where he was choreographing and also performing in Broadway productions. It all coalesced and built up, and he became more and more well known. Eventually, well, somebody in Hollywood uh, saw him and said, "This guy's great." He started getting into Hollywood productions, and more and more, he had opportunities to choreograph, not for other people, but for himself. That was the big change that happened. He was no longer teaching others, showing them how to do things. He was choreographing great things that he performed. And this was his passion. This is what he lived for. And he just kept doing it and got better and better. And eventually became established in Hollywood. He did For Me and My Gal in 42. That was with Judy Garland. He did some acting as well, because sometimes the studios had nothing prepared, and if they didn't have a dance or musical prepared, they just stuck him in a B movie drama. So he did some straight acting. Also, then he took the male lead in Cole Porter's Dewberry Was a Lady in 1943 with Lucille Ball. And then went on to just gain greater prominence and bigger roles. He had a minor period at the very, very end of World War II where he enlisted, and then came back to Hollywood. He did Anchors Away. Now, you'll recognize that name in 1945. And that was with Frank Sinatra, which he collaborated with at least 2 or 3 more times. That's the movie that had that animated dance sequence with Jerry Mouse from Hanna and Barbera. You know, what was that cat and mouse team called? Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
Tom and Jerry. Yeah, so everyone remembers that. That was pretty early on in a succession of amazing movies that came out with Gene Kelly. And we're talking 46 to 52. He did Living in a Big Way. He did Easter Parade. He did Take Me Out to the Ball Game. These are all big deal movies. And that eventually led to probably his greatest success, An American Paris. It won 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. And then I think just a year later, folks, Singing in the Rain. And if that didn't just put the seal on his mark, then nothing would. And he went on further. So many movies where he directed the dance sequences, created the choreographer, and just became this amazing star. He sang, he danced, he acted. So, and then later on, as he slowed down as a dancer, he went on to just become more and more interested in film production. He wanted to be behind the scenes, and that's how he lived out the rest of his life. He would appear frequently on television and in a few movies along the way. And the very last movie that he appeared in was Xanadu.
Yes, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit here. But just to wrap up, Mr. Kelly, he had 8 film roles in the 5 years prior to American in Paris, and another 8 films in the next 5 years. So he kept quite busy in this period of his career.
Yeah. He was said to have been a perfectionist. He would rehearse over and over and over. He was absolutely committed to his art. And he demanded a lot of everyone who had to rehearse with him. But by all accounts that I've read, he was not an a-hole. He was respectful. He demanded a lot, but he was not a jerk by any means. He was a very nice man. And Fred Astaire, he particularly admired. Fred Astaire was already, if you can believe it, already retired by the time Gene Kelly came on the scene. So we're talking about a big gap there in Hollywood dancing musicals. Fred Astaire completed kind of his life's work. And then Gene Kelly came along, and he was completely different from Fred Astaire, but Gene Kelly worshipped Fred Astaire, but he realized, I can take Fred Astaire and bring him along and create something new, because I'm not Fred Astaire, I'm Gene Kelly, and I'm going to do something new. But he absolutely felt that Fred Astaire was a genius, and all he wanted to do was carry on the tradition of music and choreography into a new era, which he certainly did. There's the two of them are very different. Gene Kelly's very athletic. He had a presence that Fred Astaire did not have. Fred Astaire was slight and very polished with his top hat and coattails. Gene Kelly, when he danced, he was in a shirt and pants that well, one might wear in France. So it was very different. And Gene Kelly coaxed Fred Astaire out of retirement more than once to come back in a movie he was either producing or directing.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had a great deal of respect for each other.
I tend to think of Fred Astaire as more sort of a ballroom dancing type of person, and Gene Kelly is more like the West Side Story type of dancing.
Yeah, although, West Side Story came after Gene Kelly, the height of Gene Kelly's career. But yeah, Gene Kelly, like I say, I mean, he didn't need the old Hollywood top hat and coattails.
Mm-hmm.
And let's talk about Leslie Caron, DJ.
Sure. Now, just before we do that, I'm going to play a clip, and this is from Tonight Show with Johnny Carson in 1975, and you're going to hear Gene Kelly talking about the beginnings of his dancing.
It made you popular with the girls if you were a good dancer. And my kid brother, not my older brother, my kid brother, Fred, I know Ed, you know Fred. My kid brother, Fred, taught me how to dance. And I was a big shot with the girls. But I, too, was truthfully shy. I couldn't go into a room and say, may I have the next dance? In those days, when you put your arm around a girl, you had to dance with her. You just didn't go up and put your arm around a girl. And it was a form of courtship. And dancing was the way to meet a girl and the way to get close to a girl.
Nowadays, contact is out. You know,
No.
if you touch, you're
Can I
disqualified.
have this dance? They're over that side of the room. It's a different world, but it's nice. A lot of people make a lot of money.
Well, it was a way of socializing. You get to know the girl and talk and everything else. These kids don't talk to each other when they dance. They just
the
wait
music's
goodbye.
too loud.
Something happens. I don't know what it is.
Well, it's too dark to read a newspaper, and it's too loud to talk, and the food's no good. So you better get up there and dance.
So
Do you know what year that was? Did you mention it?
Yes, in 75.
75. All right.
Mm-hmm. So the love interest in An American in Paris was an up-and-coming French gal. Now, American in Paris was actually her film debut, and Miss Leslie Caron was all of 19. And she would appear in 6 films over the next 5 years, including with Fred Astaire in 55, Daddy Longlegs. And it was sort of a Phantom of the Opera story where she had somebody that was interested in her talent. So he was paying for her schooling. And in 64, Leslie Caron starred with Cary Grant in a film called Father Goose. And this was about a pilot that was stationed at a remote island during World War II. And his job was spotting airplanes. Now, in 65, Leslie Caron starred in A Very Special Favor. Now, this movie starred heartthrob Rock Hudson and Charles Boyer. And just to drop a few more names here, and in 66, Leslie was in a film called Promise Her Anything, and it had Mr. Warren Beatty.
All right. So she really, Kelly discovered her in Paris. She was a ballet dancer. And one of the things that Kelly was interested in throughout most of his creative career was ballet and how to bring it into his American productions. And well, I mean, American in Paris has a great deal of ballet in it, and he just loved bringing that aesthetic into it. So Leslie Caron was a dancer, but there she was. As she went along, she kind of became a Hollywood star, and she just did some plain old acting in other movies. So this is Crownhaven's favorite, Oscar Levant. Oscar Levant, this was his 10th movie. He was the buddy character in the movie, and he had some great scenes. He was very lovable. And he would play off of all the things that were going on between his good friend, Gene Kelly, and other characters in the movie. He was often caught in between. But he did have one solo musical number where he was playing the piano. And, DJ, I thought, okay, they're faking his piano. But then he did the solo, and unmistakably, he's playing that damn piano.
Mm-hmm.
So he obviously had musical ability. That was really him playing that number.
Yeah, and for those of you who haven't seen An American in Paris, it was a rather fun little daydream scene when he's having his solo, because in the end, he's sort of patting himself on his back because everyone who's in the concert hall is him.
Yeah, he's basically fantasizing about when he makes it big. And it's a really great scene. He's a very endearing character in that movie. So, DJ, let's just go through some of the writers and the director. Who wrote it, DJ?
Okay. Well, the person behind the story of An American in Paris was a writer named Alan J. Lerner. And Mr. Lerner did some other work, including Gene Kelly's counterpart, Mr. Fred Astaire. He wrote a film in 51, was Royal Wedding. And a few years later, he did a film that had Gene Kelly in it, called Brigadoon. That was a musical. And then, of course, in '64, he did a film that was well, at least Julie Andrews was in the theater production, but the screen role went to Audrey Hepburn in My Fair Lady in '64.
There you go. The director was Vincent Minnelli. Now, Vincent Minnelli, Minnelli, you know that name. Who was Vincent Minnelli? Well, famously, the
Liza
father.
with a Z, not Lisa with an S.
There you go. Famously, the father of Liza Minnelli. He was married to Judy Garland for a time, and they had a child, and it was Liza and Vincent Minnelli. Now, he was another guy that started small time, but eventually made it to Chicago, and then eventually Broadway, Radio City Music Hall. And he started out in set design and worked his way up to stage director. That's how he began his career. But his main love was music, and he started to direct musical reviews, and there were many. And again, as he went along, he became mixed up in Hollywood, and before you know it, he was doing movies like Cabin in the Sky in 1943. I Doed It. That was with Red Skelton. Meet Me in St. Louis. You've all heard of that one. Strike Up the Band. We're talking a lot of stuff with Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney also. The Busby Berkeley films. Of course, that's where he met Judy Garland and fell in love with her and all that. Vincent Minnelli went on to do An American in Paris, 51, Brigadoon in 54, Kismet in 55, Gigi. I love Gigi in 58. And then he didn't just do musicals. He did Madame Bovary, Father of the Bride, The Bad and the Beautiful, Lust for Life, Designing Women, The Courtship of Eddie's Father. That was all the way in 63.
Now, Toppy, Vincent Minnelli did one of my favorite comedies.
Really?
And has our favorite redhead New Yorker. Do you know what film I'm talking about?
Well, I know probably it was with Lucy.
And I think James Mason was in it as her guardian angel.
What was it called?
Long, Long Trailer.
Oh, good heavens. Did he directed that?
He did. It was a favorite because by the time I was born, my grandparents had retired, and they were snowbirds, as we like to say up here in the north. So the Long, Long Trailer was very endearing because, of course, it was about a couple that was going to be living on the road. And, of course, Lucy was what we call nowadays a hoarder because she collected everything and weighed the trailer down.
Yeah. Well, it was that movie that sort of proved to Hollywood and that Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball could carry a comedy. And it's what started their TV series off with. This movie, DJ, it was my first time. I loved it. I was surprised how much I liked it. What's your history with this movie? This is something you chose.
It is. Now, of course, for those of you who follow my solo show, Surely You Jest, you'll know that there's a little reasoning behind why I chose An American in Paris to set us off into the sunset for the summer, because this is our summer finale. We're going to say goodbye for just a little over a month. We'll be coming back after the next holiday. But An American in Paris was something I chose because Gene Kelly was an important actor in my father's childhood, and we recently lost a family member here at Chateau Star Sage. My best friend of 10 years who plainly put was a kitty cat, but in reality had way more personality than any other animal I've known. And because the only other pet that I had was a dog that I named after Dorothy's slippers, Judy Garland's character in The Wizard of Oz. I named her Ruby. Well, I decided that if my only kitty cat that I had ever had at that point in my life was going to be friends with a pet of mine that had passed on, he would have to be named after Judy Garland's best friend. And so the shortened version of the story, what do they say? Long story, not so short, is that I gave my kitty cat Oliver Gene Kelly's birthday because I wasn't his first owner. So, American in Paris I chose because it's a beautiful film. It has a lot of love and romance, and it depicted Gene Kelly in his prime. So I wanted to remember my kitty cat Oliver now that it's been a couple of months and things are starting to get a little easier by discussing a film about Gene Kelly in his prime.
All right, very nice. DJ, I gotta say, my favorite scene in this movie is when Leslie Crone and Gene Kelly walk down the sort of these cement steps, and they're by a canal, and in the background is a bridge, and they're sort of like just talking, but they're sort of falling in love. And the mood of that piece and that beautiful, beautiful set all on a stage impressed the hell out of me. It looked like it was night. It was supposed to be night, and it looked like night, and it's Technicolor, and it looked like night. But when you look at the scenes where they're close to a wall and you see there's the shadows that they're casting, you realize, holy S, that's a powerful lot of light that is shining on them. Which Technicolor needed. Nonetheless, with filters and with just skill, they made it look like night, and that really impressed me. It's so moody. They had these wonderful painted backdrops. Actually, they were used through the course of the entire film. Just an amazing use of painted backdrops. And then they used real water to have light jingling around the way water will do to light. Anyways, just outstanding. And then they sing and they dance on this set. That was my absolute favorite moment.
They did such a good job with these sets there too. I mean, unless you do like Toppy and I, and look for the fine print, you wouldn't know at first watching that this was a back lot that they had dressed up to look like it was Paris in the streets.
Well, to me it was obvious it was all a set, but that's okay. It was beautifully created. Now Gene Kelly, after Singing in the Rain, after American in Paris, he was one of the first choreographers, dancers to bring all of this kind of thing outside of the studio and use real locations, which is infinitely harder to do because the whole idea on a set with controlled lighting is it's controlled. That's why it was used. They could control the lighting. When you went outside, the freaking clouds would come over, and then the sun was hot, and then it was horribly more difficult and expensive. But it was the way things were going, and Gene Kelly knew it, and he took as much as American in Paris relied on these old style sets with painted backdrops. He knew he had to go beyond that, and he took it out into the real world in later films. But these sets I just loved in this movie.
Now, Toppy, we were talking about moments in the film that, were special. Now, I'm probably going to have a maybe unpopular, but maybe sort of a modern opinion. Okay, you've got an American, soldier who stayed behind, and he's falling for a local girl. Okay, and maybe you're not supposed to pay any attention or that much attention to the fact that he's old enough to be your father. Nowadays, that's a little less acceptable, but I don't know about you, but I had a special interest. Like I felt attached to one of the other characters more, and I would like to have seen something more have happened to the woman who bought his paintings, Milo. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, this lady, she had it all, in my opinion. And I think that Jerry Maguire, Gene Kelly's character there, was a little off his wagon to pass her up because she had smarts. She had money. Okay, maybe it was daddy's money, but she still had money, and she had little looks too.
Well,
I mean,
but when he thought he lost Leslie Caron, he went right to her.
true, but some of the things that have been commented in reviews of this film, now that it's many years later, is there's a mysterious departure during the course of the film where you don't see the character of Milo anymore, and it's at the party, that wonderful party where there's the high contrast outfits in black and white that look like they could even be worn today. And she's standing at the bar and she's having a drink, and the man behind the bar is his friend, the pianist, and he's basically talking about his friend's new investor, and she's got more money than sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, she walks away because her feelings have been hurt. But I say that I find her interesting because if you think about the times when they were at the club in the beginning of the film after she'd bought his paintings, they were talking about the fact that she'd been married once before, but her husband walked out on her, basically.
Mhm.
Well, if you think about this, she's an American woman, but she's in Paris. So that means she made a choice to stay there. She's living a life that she couldn't have enjoyed as a single woman in the 50s in America. She is playing the field.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And she's playing it with much younger men, or what she can find. She's attracted to these artists that she's sponsoring. It's usually a friends with benefits situation. This whole movie is a little weird in this whole way when we look back on it. First of all, Leslie Caron. Okay, I'm going to marry this guy, but I'm really in love with Gene Kelly, but that's okay. I'm going to go with this guy. Then Gene Kelly, I mean, just sort of, there's no real depth into why he likes Leslie Caron or falls in love with her. And there's Milo. The whole thing is kind of weird.
And, okay, maybe we didn't really pay as much attention back when this was made about the age difference. Because, you want a young wife if you want to have a family. She's got to be a certain age before she can, have kids.
Yeah.
But what weirds me out is the fact that, okay, Gene Kelly's already old enough to be her father, but she admits that the man she's going to be marrying is someone she's known for years. Now, I don't know if she's supposed to be the age the actress is, but the actress is 19. And if the man who she's marrying has been around her family for the last 5 years, that meant he met her when she was 14. Ew!
Oh, it's mentioned in the movie. Oh, she was very, very young and then she grew up. And I was just sitting there going, this is weird. This is uncomfortable. This is odd. Anyways, we got to look back. You know, I'm not too impressed with cancel culture, kids. I don't, I don't feel the need to erase this movie because it's offensive in today's standards. But that's something else altogether.
I choose to believe that Leslie Caron is not the age that her character is. That's what I'm going to say.
I don't know. It was all odd, but of course it's Gay Paris, and
Oui.
well, think back to the scene and the choreography in the party by the students when they're all wearing black and white costumes.
Oh yeah, I love that.
And
scene.
jumping from the balcony and just drinking. There were some scenes in Paris at the time that were very much like that. It was quite decadent. Anyways, we do have to wrap this up very soon, DJ.
Sure. Now, I just want to go through a short, quick list here because not long ago, last year, we wound down the summer, starting off with Moulin Rouge, our first musical, I think, and that was set in Paris. And Toppy, there's some other films that were set in Paris. Do you want to go over those for me?
You mean movies that we've done or movies that were in Hollywood?
There's a list of Hollywood films set in Paris.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we got one of my favorites, Charade, with Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. There was French Kiss. That was quite more recent with Meg Ryan and Kevin Kline in '95. Wonderful, strange movie called Frantic in 1988 with Harrison Ford. Way back, well, the whole all the versions of Phantom of the Opera were in Paris. A 1998 movie with Robert De Niro called Ronin. Back in '53, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. So yeah, France was a place people, it was a destination. It was America regarded France as quite sophisticated and artistic.
And that Gentlemen Prefer Blondes is where the Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend song is performed first. That was later redone by Nicole Kidman in the jukebox musical Moulin Rouge that we talked about last year. So, all right, Toppy, there's just a smidgen of the show left before we say goodnight and goodbye for the remainder of the summer. And there's some other programs you might enjoy if you liked An American in Paris. So I'll go ahead and tell folks what I think they should dabble their intellect into. There is a musical from the 50s, the decade that American Paris came out. And it was at the later end of the decade there in 57. And this starred everyone's favorite wholesome gal, Doris Day, in The Pajama Game.
There you go. And she did do some musicals. Crunhaven in the chat room says Leslie Caron's character also loved Fred Astaire in a different movie. As long as you are an adult, age is just a thing. That's certainly true. And Gene Kelly himself must have agreed with you, Crunhaven, because his last wife, DJ, was how old?
Oh, she was several decades his junior. Lisa Ward Kelly was in her 30s when she met Gene Kelly, and he was 77 at the time. Now, she actually, of course, survived him, and to this day is still making appearances to speak about his legacy.
I'm trying to be coy, but obviously their relationship was important, and she never did remarry, and she's basically dedicated her life to preserving his memory. So my recommendations are, for heaven's sakes, Jeepers Creepers, if you haven't seen it. For God's sake, see Singing in the Rain. It was a less successful movie in terms of dollars and cents, believe it or not, than American in Paris. But over the years, Singing in the Rain has replaced American in Paris as just the movie people think of when they think of Gene Kelly and the phenomenal number where he is singing in the rain. The other movie I want to mention is a movie Gene Kelly directed, and it stars Jackie Gleason in a very different role than you're used to. It was in 1962. It was called Gigo, or Gig. It certainly wasn't Gigot, for God's sake. It must have been Gigo. And again, a movie that took place in France. Jackie Gleason portrayed I think, deaf and dumb, or at least somebody who couldn't talk. And it was a story conceived by Jackie Gleason himself, and it was a movie he had dreamed of making for years and years, and he finally had a chance. Originally, he wanted Orson Welles to direct, but he wound up with Gene Kelly directing. And if this is not considered a great movie, but I've seen it, and it's oddly affecting, and Jackie Gleason is oddly affecting. And I've just sort of always remembered it. So here, it's just an example of a movie Gene Kelly directed. 1962, it was Gigot, Gigot, 1962. Both Gleason and Kelly were disappointed in the results because the producers made about 40 cuts and changes without even telling them. So they sort of like said, well, forget it, because they felt like it wasn't their movie anymore. But still, I just got a thing for that movie.
Alrighty, so I'm just going to play a little background here. We're going to talk about something to come. So, for those of you who stick around during the summer, particularly if you participate in our Facebook group, Toppy and I are planning a get-together or two online. We're going to be watching some films this summer, and we hope that you'll choose to join us. If you aren't already in our Facebook group, go ahead and do a search for Matinee Minutia. If you can spell that, M-A-T-I-N-A-E, Minutia, M-I-N-U-T-I-A-E, and join our group, and we will discuss what's to come and plan things out. So, and that was the Whenever You're Away From Me, Wherever You Go, from Xanadu, one of the films that we hope to watch this summer.
Yeah, if we do no other, these are movies we call watch along, where you can be in a chat room, you can watch the movie at the same time we do. DJ successfully carried this out with at least one other movie or two, at least one, right?
Yes. So it's using a service, and I'll cut this out. It's using a service called Cast. Now, you will need a semi-recent device. If your device is more than 5 years old, you probably won't be able to use it. You don't have to have the software installed, but it is helpful. You basically get to watch the program with us, and there's a chat room alongside it so we can interact with each other. And we will more than likely be doing this on a weekend so that those of us who are still participating in the workforce may not be at our desks when we can watch these things together.
Yeah, so this is something we hope to do over the hiatus at least once, and we are bound and determined to do Xanadu. And guess who's in it? Gene Kelly. in his last movie appearance. So it's a wonderful, fun, strange movie of its day with Olivia Newton-John. It's just sort of, it's one of those anyways, it's kind of celebrated now in a way that it didn't exactly make big box office numbers back in the day.
I will tell you this, Toppy. That is a movie that my father used to use to show off his home theater. Whenever we would have guests over, he wanted them to see that not only did he have a nice TV and a couple of speakers, but he had a surround system.
Much impressed. Probably the way I am when I go over to Shea Starsage and the movie screen comes down from the ceiling. No fooling, folks. It does. Anyways, I love Gene Kelly. I have a whole new respect for the guy after watching this movie, and I want to see more of his movies. So I hope you guys all feel the same. And this is our fond farewell for the summer. We'll be back in a couple months to start, for goodness sake, season 3.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read our out credits to the Xanadu song, and stay tuned for a brief tribute that you'll hear in a moment. Thank you for listening to Matinee Minutia. You can find us on Facebook and on Twitter at Matinee Minutia. Our webpage is matineeminutia.com. We stream live on univazpods.net on the first and third Friday of each month at 9 p.m. Eastern. Please join us for Season 3, which will begin after the Labor Day holiday in September, tentatively slated for the third Friday of the 18th of the month there. So thanks for joining us,
Oliver. This has been an Ollybug production.
Chubb's Gone Wild with Matt and Tom.
Speak up.
The Smellcast by Toppy Smelly.
Be heard.
Tastes like burning with Tim and James.
Unique voices in podcasting.
The Shy Life Podcast with me, Paul the Shy Yeti.
univazpods.net.
I am ending the stream, and I'll go ahead and end the broadcast.